Okay, good afternoon and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Today we're Table and Abel's Shulchan Aruch Yomi Siman Ayin, number 70, in Aruch Chaim Hilchos Kriya Shema. A very relatable Siman today. Mihem Apturim Kriya Shema. Certain people are exempt from this, so Kriya Shema. Let's get into it. There's 5 halachas. Aleph, Nashim Avodim, Apturim Kriya Shema, Nishi Mitzvah Sasei Shazman Groma. The Mishnah in Brachos says very clearly that women, Avodim are, even if they're men, you're Avodim Knainim, they're hookish to a woman, and their pater mitzvah shazman grama. A woman's time is not her own. A slave's time is not his own, and therefore they're pater from all mitzvahs. I say they're time bound. And shakav kumecha kriya shema is a mitzvah specifically in the morning and the night, twice a day. So therefore they're exempt. V'nachon hu l'lam mishikablem ol malchus shamayim. Of course, from the Oel Moed. This is not the Oel Moed that Moshe Rabbeinu was part of. The Oel Moed, some sefer. Nachonu. Where does he know it? It's a good idea that they should makabel al kashmayim hagad. Ramah says yikru lefachos pasuk rishon. The Ramah adds in the Beis Yosef b'shem the Oel Moed. At least the first pasuk they should do. Why? I don't know. I mean, it says in the Mishnah you're potter, so why are you telling me that it's not one to say it? I mean, you're right. There's an Indian. It's like the whole discussion of mitzvah shazman grama. I mean, the practice of women nowadays is to be machmir, that at least in the front communities, to be make sure that they're yotzei tkiyah shofar, they're yotzei lulav, they're yotzei sukkah. These are mitzvahs that they're potter from. There's a strong push nowadays. They can even make a bracha on it. I don't know. I'm a firm believer in Torah is massive enough to undertake yourself. When it says you're potter, accept the Torah and take it. I don't know. It's nachon. Why is it more correct to do it? I think it's more correct not to do it. I think it's Baal Tosef, and it's become Baal Tosef. I think in this society nowadays, where a lot of women feel they're obligated to hear Tkiyah Shofar. On Rosh Hashanah is a very busy day as it is, and to make a special Tkiyah Shofar for women, right? The men have to be with kids, right? Someone has to watch the kids, so you have to go home and interrupt your davening or not get your rest on Rosh Hashanah so your wife can go hear Tkiyah Shofar. Why? They don't have to hear Tkiyah Shofar. Why are we making such a big inyan? People build these huge sukkahs to accommodate the women. Don't put the woman in the sukkah. Don't make yourself so crazy with sukkahs. You know, it's kind of crazy. It was got out of hand, I think, in my opinion. The Mishnah also says, Nashim v'adam Ktanim are pater. Now, the problem is the Rishonim deal with is that normally even the Ktanim, boys, right, when they're Hagil Chinuch, when they reach the Chinuch age, so they're Chayiv. So, Rabbeinu Tam says the whole Mishnah is only talking in Mekshalo Hagil Chinuch. That's what it means. When they're 6 or 7 years old, and just like when they reach the age where they know how to put on a talis, right, they know how to dress themselves, they're Chayiv and Tzitzis, so too they're Chayiv and Kriya Shema. Rashi, Afil Hagil Chinuch, Mnei She'eno Matzah Etzla B'zman Kriya Shema B'erev V'yashin Hu B'boker Roy Linon Rabbeinu Tam. Rashi says no, all Ketanim are pater, because the reason is the mitzvah is on the father, mitzvah of chinuch is on the father, and the father is not around, right? When the kids go to sleep, he's not home, he's not helping his wife put the kids to sleep, right? He's busy working, he's busy learning, and in the morning, somebody's sleeping. Let's say who? B'yashin hu b'boker. Sounds like the child, the child is sleeping. Meaning, we're talking about an 8-9-year-old boy. It's hard to get out of bed to go to yeshiva, so he's sleeping late, and the father leaves early. That's what I think it means. The father leaves early to go to work, to go to his daf yomi shir. He's not around. So if the mitzvah is to mechanech your child and you're not around, the Torah can't put a mitzvah of chinuch when you're not around. So Rashi says, it makes sense from Rashi saying, because the mitzvah is all katan. It doesn't say yigil chinuch and haligi. It seems like Rashi throws in the reason because they're not around, and this is chinuch, and this is the basis for a famous machlokas about what the idea behind mitzvah katan shigil chinuch is. A mitzvah midrabanan on the child, is a mitzvah on the father. They learn from Rashi here. Rashi learns machlokas Rashi right on time. Rashi learns it's on the father, and therefore he's father. But learns on the kid. So who cares if the father's not around? The kid has to do it once he's knowledgeable enough to say the words or the first pasuk of Kriya Shema, which is Daraisa. The Shulchan says Leno Karbein Tam. Of course, right? Why would you expect to go Lakula, right? No, right? Even though it's actually Derabban, Gilachin is only a Derabban, and of course, Roy to do like Karbein Tam. I don't know. I'm so angry today, but It's not Roy Tam. Roy to go to Kula. It's something to Rabban Lakula. You go to Kula. That totally invites you to the Kula. Why should you pass on Tam? I will talk more and Ian to lean on about Shitas Rashi. I don't agree with Rashi's svara, but I do agree with Rashi's psak, and I'll tell you why. And to lean on. Gimel Akones es habsula pater mikriya shma shlosha yamim losa maisa. Someone who marries a psula. Most people marry a psula, a virgin, unless it's your second marriage. Maybe you married divorcee. You're pater from kriya shma shlosha yamim losa maisa until you actually, we talked about machazek ksubos. You actually puncture the hymen, right, and she becomes a nida, sort of, right? I mean, it's considered dam b'sulim. We treat a dam b'sulim like dam nida, and she becomes us. She should go to the mikveh again. So until you actually break the b'sulim, some people, they get married, they're not successful. A lot of people, it's difficult for them to break the b'sulim. It's not easy to get in, to penetrate with enough power to break the b'sulim. So you have 3 days to puncture the b'sulim. After 3 days, you don't think about it so much. The reason is because the person's Torah the mitzvah. He's Torah the mitzvah. What mitzvah? He's Torah the mitzvah of getting married, of nisuin, consummating his marriage. Right? We'll talk more in the Gemara Shiurim about what exactly the 3 stages: the erisin, the nisuin, and the beila. There's really beilas mitzvah. The 3rd stage, nisuin, is to pick her up, bring her into the room, into the canopy bed. But the last stage is the bila, and that consummates the full marriage. So he has to puncture the psulim. So he's thinking about that. Most people are worried, how are they going to do it? Their first time being together with a woman, maybe they're a virgin also, so they don't know what they're doing. So they're nervous about it, so they can't say Kriya Shema. They're osik with mitzvah, patr in mitzvah, where it says they're tarred in a mitzvah, of bilas mitzvah, and therefore they're not responsible for the mitzvah of Kriya Shema. This statement is Tosfos says. Tosfos adds, and that's the time of the Rishonim, right? That used to be when everyone could have kavana, right? We're assuming it means kavana for the first pasuk, meaning understanding the first pasuk. So therefore, they couldn't have kavana because they were Torah, they were preoccupied with doing this mitzvah. Aval nowadays, no one has kavana, so he has to read because they're not having kavana. Now, it doesn't make so much sense to me because if no one has kavanas, then you can't ask us to be Yotzi the mitzvah of Kriya Shema to have kavana. Why are all these people standing for 30 minutes? I mentioned this guy 30 minutes after davening would be saying Kriya Shema again and again and again because he couldn't have kavana, he couldn't have the Pirush HaMilim, the explanation of the words, clear in his mind when he was saying Kriya Shema. He would repeat it for 30 minutes after davening. It should be, we know the halacha is you have to have kavana. Now, I've explained before that really the mitzvah of kavana by Kriya Shema is not Pirush HaMilim. You don't have to think about the word. So according to that, you would have to. It's not so hard. You just have to say Kriya Shema with a minyan, or even now with a minyan, to say Kriya Shema when you're not copying from another Sefer Torah. So that's all the kavanah you need. So just like then you're pater, you should be pater now. There's a different reason you're pater, obviously. The reason being is that Kriya Shema, you have to understand that you're learning the mitzvah of Torah Shebachtav. It's mitzvah of Torah Shebachtav. And you have to understand the words. You don't have to understand the exact definition of the words and make yourself crazy over it, but you have to pay attention to what you're doing. Just, it's not so hard to think about. You don't have to replay the words in your mind, but Torah Shebachtav, I mentioned you should understand what you're saying, not that you're replaying the words in your mind. Shema, hear, Israel, O Israel. Just say the pasuk, you understand what it's saying. And you can't have that kavana. You can't be expected to do that while you're preoccupied with being shover the psulim. Someone who's drunk should read Kriya Shema. We'll learn about that later on. Unless you're osik in public matters, you're a public advocate, an askan, right? Right? You're going around the hospital. You're making your rounds. You're giving out, care packages to people and their families. Or you're meeting in the state assembly, and you're discussing an important issue about allocating funds to the different park systems, to make sure the parks in New York City are up to date and they have proper slides and proper swings. Sarchei Rabim. I know it's called Sarchei Rabim. Maybe it is Sarach Harah, public needs. I mean, this is why people are so interested in getting those seats on the state assembly, or at least in the city council. I'm talking about New York over here. Yeah, because listen, you get to be punished from Kriya Shema. Is there anything better than that? You don't have to do Kriya Shema, right? El Yigmor Yiskeim Yikrim Nishar Eis Likros. Even if it's gonna end up that you're gonna pass 3 hours, right? You should still 3 or 4 hours. You should still continue doing what your public service, whatever you have to do, your meeting in the state assembly, and then you can read Kriya Shema. As I mentioned, even after 4 hours, you can read Kriya Shema without the brachos. Hey, Haya Osik Be'achila. That's Dalit was talking about Sarach Rabim, which is called a mitzvah. It's called a mitzvah. Osik mitzvah pater mitzvah. In the middle of a mitzvah, you don't have to stop. Hey, he's talking about Osik Be'achila. He's doing something recreational. He's eating, or a merchatz, or he's in the spa, or Osik B'tispor, he's getting a haircut. Shemahapik Ba'oros. He's busy with his business. I don't know. He's a tanner of hides. Oskin Bedin. He's a judge, a dayan maybe, chief rabbinate. According to the Rambam, you finish what you're doing and then read Kriya Shema. The best thing to do, if he's afraid the time is going to pass before he's done whatever he's doing, so he should interrupt and say Kriya Shema. According to the Rav Mashubach, you have to be Likros. Even if there's actual time, you plan on finishing your meal and there'll be plenty of time to do it, you have to stop what you're doing and read Kriya Shema. Hey, the Mishnah Berurah explains that really we paskin, like the Ravid, that it's called Hiskil Be'isr and Hiskil Be'heter. Right? I remember Yonasan Sachs used to talk about this in his year. Hiskil Be'isr, Hiskil Be'heter, the difference between the Doraisa and the Rabbanan. Meaning, if you started a recreational activity, Be'heter, meaning you started eating before Alos HaShachar, right? You're allowed to do that. So then you can finish eating, right? Even according to the Ravid, you can finish eating. Even for Kriya Shema, which is the Raisa, you can finish eating and then say Kriya Shema, assuming you're able to say Kriya Shema within the best time, 3 hours. However, if it's Derabanan, however, if you're Hiskal by Raisa and you're Hiskal by Isser, you started eating after Alos HaShachar, then you have to stop right away because in the middle, everybody Derabanan, even if you Hiskal by Isser, you started by Isser, right? So like for tefillah or something like that, for dominating Shemona Esrei, which is really only the Rabbanon, according to most poskim, then you wouldn't have to stop. You could just wait as long as the time is not going to pass, and you'll be able to, when you're finished eating, you continue, and you could say your kedaven after that. So that's basically the psak halacha, that when it's doraisa, if you're hiskal beheter, you started your haircut, you started eating, got a haircut really early in the morning, so then you don't have to, you can continue, finish, and then say Kriya Shema after. If it's Hiskal Be'isr, then you have to stop in the middle. And for Tefillah, even if it's Hiskal Be'isr, then you could finish as long as you'll have time, assuming the assumption you'll have time to say it afterwards. That'll be the conclusion of today's share. Stay tuned for Ian Talina. We're talking more about Katan Shegil, Machlokes between Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. A lot to say about it. Stay tuned. Coming up next.